I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. Okay, so between Neil Young dropping a new album and the fact that no one seems to be able to agree on Benson Boone, who's one of the biggest artists out right now, there is just so much happening in the world of music. The group chat has thoughts. They're ready to get into it, so let's go. Vish Khanna is here. Rosie Long Decter is here. Carl Wilson is here. Hello to all of you.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Oh, I delight that you're all here. Listen, Carl, I'm going to start with you. Listen, we're going to talk about Neil Young and this new album. We'll hear of it. We'll hear some of it in just a moment. But first, I got to say, like, this is an artist that we're used to going through a bunch of iterations, a bunch of evolutions over the years. When you think about Neil on this album, what version of Neil are we getting?
I mean, I think we're getting Grandpa Neil.
Okay.
In a bunch of ways. One is like the feeling that Neil just woke up from a nap, and soon after this album is recorded, he will immediately go back to that nap.
Wow.
But also there's moments where his main concern seems to be about his access to his grandchildren on this album. So that comes up. There's a lot of like sort of sentimental stuff about family. There's ramblings about the car industry. So it's really a full old man smorgasbord that you get on this Chrome Hearts album.
You were like when I said Grandpa Neil, I meant it in all the regards. Okay, let us hear some of the new Neil Young album.
Big change is coming, coming right home to you. Big change is coming, you know what you gotta do. Big change is coming, could be bad and it could be good. Big change is coming, it's coming to right home where you stood.
Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts. That song is called Big Change. It's from the new album Talking to the Trees. Came out a few days ago. For those keeping score, by the way, this is Neil Young's 48th album since his debut back in 1968. Rosie, you spent a bunch of time with this album over the weekend. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's an all-timer from Neil, but I think that he's turning 80 and he's having fun with the boys, and who can deny him that at this point, I do think that some of the songs are kind of hokey. There's that sentimentality that Carl was mentioning about, family. I do think there's sort of like an interesting tension or contradiction on the album where he's like half the songs are like that, and then the other half are kind of like, what world am I leaving behind? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is sort of an interesting angle on Grandpa Neil, where it's like he part of him wants to kind of rest, like hang out easy, have a nice peaceful time for the rest of his days, and the other half of him is like, but there's such a mess. And I did find that, I find it moving that he's still very like politically engaged, and it's pretty ramshackle at points. There was a comment online about that song Big Change that was like, it would be a big change if he spent more than 5 minutes writing his songs.
Oof. Okay, listen, I'm of two minds about this, which is, one is that Neil is of a protest generation, which is like trying to be like, I would like to rest easy. That sounds lovely, except the world is chaos and I have to sort of be involved in saying something here. And then the other mind is, I do think with some of these songs, it is more having fun with the boys than it is sort of like sitting down and applying the songcraft that we maybe know Neil Young for. Vish has been hired as the Neil Young attorney in this conversation, so we're going to get to him in just a moment. But let's hear a little bit more of the record right now.
If you're a fascist, then get a Tesla. If it's electric, it doesn't matter. If you're a Democrat, then taste your freedom. Get whatever you want and taste your freedom. Yeah, China's waving, they're building clean.
Okay, so that song is taking the melody of This Land Is Your Land. It's called Let's Roll Again. It does not get more on the nose than that, right? Like, it is urging all drivers, including fascists, to switch to electric cars, telling American automakers, hey, China is way ahead of the curve on this than you. Look, Vish, again, Neil, someone we know for very topical, very political songwriting. We have Ohio, we have Rockin' in the Free World. But in this album, the bluntness and the directness sort of, I feel like it reaches another level. Like, why are you rocking with that? Like, why is that working for you?
Okay, well, first of all, it's fascinating to me that Grandpa Neil was invoked when Uncle Neil, you just played clips from songs that if that was my grandpa, he would be the sickest grandpa, rockinest grandpa ever. And Neil, okay, so Uncle Neil has been a protest singer almost his entire time
Okay.
that we've had him. And he tends to oscillate between beautiful metaphorical songwriting and blunt
Yeah.
songwriting, plain spoken songwriting. And I think Neil is, for someone of his stature, he's one of the few artists that always tries to meet the moment, always giving you something personal. Carl alluded to some songs about losing his grandkids. We are living, I think, in an age where families are fractured by misinformation. They go down their own rabbit holes. That's what I picked up on there. There's topicality here personally, and then you alluded to "This Land Is Your Land," and this song and its melody for Americans should still resonate. And I think Neil's bringing it back because this is a time where nuance is mischaracterized, it is decontextualized.
Right.
We just it's Monday morning and there was this bizarre spectacle in America that was a combination 79th birthday party for an old man and military parade. And what song were they playing here and there, piping through as the soldiers marched? Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival. That song, Born in the USA, Rockin' in the Free World by Neil himself.
Anti-war songs.
Often adopted by people who don't get what they actually mean.
Yeah.
So I like I say, this if you're a fan of Neil Young's as I am, this particular record to me captures so many of his modes. The hard rocker, the plaintive like Harvest Moon or Rust Never Sleeps side 1 folk singer, and the protest singer. It's a little bit of everything, and he's singing beautifully. I just think, unlike someone like Bob Dylan, who is of his age, of his vintage, I guess a little bit older, we wait 6-7 years for Bob to put out records, and then we all nerd out about them and dig into them. Neil puts out something, I don't know, every 6 months, and whether it's new or digging into his archives, and I don't take it for granted. I also, some things slip by me. I'm like, oh, Neil's got another new record. Like, how am I supposed to keep up with this? But I think he is a rare artist of his caliber. He's like, you know what? I have this platform. I have this audience. I'm going to say something. I'm not going to rest. So people can criticize him for being too blunt. But again, if your work has been misinterpreted or adopted by people as much as someone like his has, I say, yeah, it's a time for bluntness. I don't think it's just a time for nuanced critiques because no one gets anything. The media literacy, whatever you want to call it, is at an all-time low, and that's why we're here. And I think, sure, he might sound grumpy, but who isn't? I sound grumpy, but I'm just saying, I went into this record not knowing what to expect, and as I listened to it more and more, I'm like, I get it. I know where he's coming from. I'm also upset. And people need to speak plainly.
Vish, I take your point. The idea that, hey, listen, if you go to a military parade and you hear Born in the USA or Rockin' in the Free World, you're at the wrong party because those songs are being misinterpreted by those people if you're hearing them there. And so maybe there is no recourse for someone like Neil Young but to say, hey, I think you're a fascist and maybe a bad person, and like to put that as explicitly as possible in a song. Okay, I want to move on from Neil Young, and I want to talk about this next artist. Let's hear it.
Please stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. Don't take these beautiful things that I've got. Please stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. Don't.
Every time I say, I don't know if I could hear another Benson Boone song, this chorus hits, I kind of go like, well, I could hear one. I could hear this one more time. That song is called Beautiful Things. It was the most popular song across all digital platforms in 2024. Last week, I should say, it joined Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas in the number 8 slot of longest charting songs ever at 72 consecutive weeks, which is wild to me because I feel like we've had that song for actually 200 years, I feel, at this point. But Also, it's worth noting that Benson Boone's second album is about to come out. It's called American Heart. It's going to come out this Friday. Carl, how has he done it? How has Benson Boone managed to have the longevity that he's had? Because I don't feel like he's an artist who has that staying power, and yet the charts keep saying, no, we can't get enough of this guy.
I mean, the charts move in mysterious ways, but
They do.
there's also the fact that in the streaming economy, there are things that haven't been figured out yet, and one of them is the ways that singles and albums have like lingered in the charts for much longer periods of time than they used to. They open faster and they don't go away, and it's kind of success breeds success in this more intense way than it used to, and that unfortunately sort of dampens down the dynamism of the charts and of the radio in some ways. And Benson Boone, along with some other kind of feel good generic boy singers like Teddy Swims and currently Alex Warren, is kind of riding this wave of what works as kind of both background music and music you can listen to. You know, he's this nice Mormon boy picking up, trying to do some like sort of glam moves and his unitards and backflips. And and God love him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like you look at the boys and go, what's wrong here? You know, the dynamism of these personalities compared to all of the distinctive personas and ideas behind what young women in pop are doing right now is, it brings us back to that question of like, what's wrong with the men that a lot of our culture brings up these days.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious about this because Rosie, last time that we had you on, first of all, a nice Mormon boy who wants to get his glam on nicely describes Brendan Flowers of the Killers, and so that spot will only be occupied by one man. Thank you very much. But Rosie, last time that you were on the show, you called Benson Boone one of your belting boys, and
Yes.
I'm sensitive to that. Because we are in a generation of belting boys. I want to play some of the new Benson Boone that's about to come out. Let's hear a little bit of it right now.
Once you know what my love's gonna feel like, nothing else will feel right. You can feel like moonbeam ice cream, taking off your blue jeans, dancing at the movies, 'cause it feels so mystical, magical, oh baby, 'cause once you know my love.
It feels important to me to point out that Vish is literally, like, his face is in his palm. He cannot handle the song. The song is called Mystical Magical. It's a song that, I don't know, may remind you of like an Olivia Newton-John song from the 80s. Rosie, when you look at your belting boys, and particularly Benson Boone, does he have what it takes to sort of continue the momentum that he's had for the last little while?
Well, he's really trying. I think, like, the reason you heard me come on this show before and maybe have a bit of a soft spot for him was that I think Beautiful Things really has a hard-hitting chorus. Like, I don't hate that song. His new direction, he's going a little poppier. He's moving out of kind of a rock mode. I think he's trying to have a bit of a broader appeal.
Mm-hmm.
I really am thinking of him as kind of like Harry Styles light, which is saying something because Harry Styles is already pretty light. And
yeah, no one needed to lighten Harry Styles. Like, no one was like, yeah. Continue, sorry.
I think he's very entertaining. I don't know that he has a hook that's going to give him longevity, in the same way that Carl was saying, like, these boys on the pop charts, they are lacking the personality and the artistry of the women we're seeing on the pop charts. And I that said, it can be easier for boys to stick around. They also face less scrutiny, I think. I think that I don't think this album is about to hit as big as Beautiful Things, but that might be still enough for him to hang around on the charts and on the radio, and he might just be an ambient name that you're familiar with.
I mean, listen, you mentioned Teddy Swims. Today on the subway, I saw someone in a Teddy Swims t-shirt. I was like, I think you might be the only person on the planet who owns a Teddy Swims t-shirt. Vish, I got to say, like, your reaction was very dramatic, sort of watching you listen to that new Benson Boone song.
I apologize.
No, I liked it. And the reason I liked it is because it reminded me of the Pitchfork review of Benson Boone's Coachella performance. They wrote, Benson Boone is horrible, just god-awful. The kind of act that makes you wonder if this whole medium has been worth it. So I think you guys might be in the same kind of, territory here. Where do you land on the love-hate for Benson Boone?
Well, all of us here, I think, are likely music and pop culture omnivores, and every once in a while, a figure like this is thrust upon us, and we have to think about them and just have some sort of opinion. And one day I was in my office down here, and I heard my son's bedroom door open, and I didn't see him, but I heard him say, "Hey, Papa, do you know who Benson Boone is?" And I went, "Yeah, I heard the name, but not really. Why?" And my son went, "He sucks." And I was like, okay, thanks for
Oh,
the
wow.
reason analysis of Benson Boone. I'm at an age where my 13-year-old son and my 10-year-old daughter are kind of my cultural barometers about popular culture.
Yeah.
But so he mentioned that, and then I watched the Grammys or SNL, Saturday Night Live, and I see this Benson Boone guy flipping around, and I think, this guy's not going to make it. I mean, if I was a Benson Boone fan and I had tickets to a show on his tour, 15 shows deep, I'd be like, he's not making it. Like, he's going to twist an ankle or break something and it's going to be over. That was my kind of visual, like, opinion. And then the other thing that was weird, not too long ago, Steph Curry, one of my favorite basketball players of all time, his team, the
He
Golden
was
State
singing
Warriors.
along. He was singing along
That's
to
right.
every word of a Benson Boone show.
And I was like, oh my God, he's wrong about Draymond Green. He's wrong about Benson Boone. What happened to Steph? But anyway, last night I decided maybe it's the visuals. You guys have talked about what he looks like with the unitards, I think was the word I heard. And so I thought I'll listen to the music just with nothing. So I can just listen to the music because maybe we've been distracted by the flips and stuff. So I had it playing in my office and on a speaker, and I was listening. And about 45 seconds, I hear my daughter in the kitchen and my son upstairs go, "Papa, turn it off. What are you doing? That's Benson Boone. Turn it off, Papa." And I'm like, oh my God, this visceral reaction. So the thing you just noticed about me, it's in the family. So we're not the Benson Boone household. And that's kind of where I land. If my kids really don't like it, I'm with them. The kid's all right, everyone. And with Benson Boone, and I'm going to stick my landing. Unlike him, one day, and I feel badly for saying it, but you can't just be flipping around all the time. I worry as a parent.
Okay, I want to keep it moving because there's more to talk about here. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Vish Khanna is here, Carl Wilson is here, and Rosie Long Decter is here. And we're going to move on to another pop star who's, let's say, dividing public opinion at the moment.
It's all just so familiar, baby. What do you call it? Stupid? Or is it slow? Maybe it's useless. But there's
So
a
that
cuter
is-
word for it.
That is Sabrina Carpenter. The song is Man-Child. It's her first single from her upcoming album. It's called Man's Best Friend. That's out August 29th. I can't believe she already has another album because the last album came out last August. But Sabrina's like, no, we're going to keep this moment going. But the reason that people are talking about Sabrina a lot is because of the album cover that it was just revealed. Sabrina's on all fours on it. Her hair is being pulled by a man, positioned just at a frame. This cover has drawn all kinds of condemnation. People are really mad about this cover. Other people are defending it as a satire of the patriarchy. Rosie, I'm going to start with you, pal. When you saw that cover and you saw the reaction to it, what was your reaction?
Yeah, first I have to say I love the song. I love the new single.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely catchy. I'm belting it out. Undeniable guitar lick. The album art, I'm not offended by it. I just think that we've hit sort of peak woman as dog. Like, the album is called Man's Best Friend. She's on all fours. There's another image accompanying it where there's like a dog collar. We had the movie Night Bitch last year starring Amy Adams. We had some dog stuff going on in the movie Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman. We've had the Soccer Mommy song Your Dog. I
Rose
just
is like,
think
enough.
it's played out. It's been done. I know that being a woman under patriarchy is like, you're expected to be submissive. You're expected to follow along, be man's best friend. I get it. It's a potent metaphor. I think we've had enough of it, and I think there's more interesting or novel things to say about what it means to be a woman right now. I think that I do think she's trying to do something campy with it. I think she's maybe being provocative, but I do think she is often kind of taking on this traditional femininity to also poke fun at it. I think she plays with both sides there. Perhaps to read to both audiences as well. But I think that I just think there's more interesting things to be done
You said both audiences. What's the
Like,
dichotomy there?
yeah, I think that if you want to just read Sabrina Carpenter as like embracing traditional femininity, you can, and if you want to read her as
Subverting it.
satirizing it, you can. You know, I think she's kind of playing across the field there.
Carl,
But
I just want to because we have more to talk about here, but Carl, I just want to kick this to you because there's something that happens where people say, I can't believe that Sabrina Carpenter is doing this. My children listen to her, to which I say, then have they heard the last record? Because I feel like she was way more provocative on the record than she was on this album cover. What happens? What's that disconnect between people saying, oh, she's a pop star, she's innocent, until they see imagery, and then suddenly it's like a different thing?
Well, partly it's that people don't actually listen to the music and they react online. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of people having reactions to this, including very well-meaning feminists and that kind of thing, who have no context for Sabrina Carpenter going into this and don't understand that her whole thing is kind of portraying the paradox of being a heterosexual woman and being caught in between your desire and the fact that men under patriarchy are deeply disappointing and upsetting. And so that's what the music is about. So it's anybody who knows her work doesn't have trouble reading this. And so that's fine. And I agree with Rosie that it's not a brilliant statement or of originality or anything like that. But it is, you know, it's basically the same gesture that Madonna could have made 30 years ago. And this is pop culture doing pop culture. And people getting worked up about it is also pop culture doing pop culture. So in that way, you know, it's like, well, congratulations, you've succeeded in taking the bait. But, you know, I think that given that it's not the most interesting thing about what Sabrina's doing, I hope it doesn't continue to dominate the conversation about the new music for very long.
Desperately, because I do think the music is actually doing really interesting things, and she has been since the last album, but also for this one too. Vish, we got like literally 30 seconds on this, and then we got to move on to the next topic. But what are your reactions?
Because I have no thoughts of my own, as I established earlier, I asked my wife about this last night. She hadn't seen the cover. I showed her the cover, and she said, "What is this even supposed to be?" And then, as we talked about it, she's like, "Well, I think she's just trying to have, like, she's trying to be funny." She said, "I don't know if it is funny, but I think she's trying to be funny." And I think anyone who's seen Sabrina on SNL or listened closely to the lyrics will realize she has really good comedic timing. She is interested in comedy. I also said to my wife, this feels to me like post RuPaul's Drag Race, like laughing at sexuality, laughing at anatomy, laughing at some of our sexual conventions. Maybe that's where it's coming from.
Okay, before we go, we need to spend a moment to pay our respects to a Canadian legend. That's Screaming First. That's Toronto's own Violtones, one of the first punk singles to come out in this country. The band's notorious lead singer, Stephen Leckie, died on June 12th at 67 from cancer. Carl, I just want to give you a moment here to just give us an explanation of, you know, a sense maybe of why Stephen Leckie was such a pivotal figure in the evolution of punk and alternative culture in this country.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Leckie formed the Violtones in 1977 when he was still a teenager, and they became one of the foundational first-generation punk bands in Canada, alongside in Toronto the likes of the Demics and the Diodes and the Ugly. And they also made a splash in New York, playing CBGBs in Mexican City at the same time that that sort of wave of original New York punk was happening. And their first single, Screaming Fist, is kind of an iconic anthem of early Toronto punk. It was featured in William Gibson's sci-fi novel Neuromancer in the early 80s and covered by Bad Brains. Nirvana sometimes covered the B-side Possibilities in concert. Leckie was infamous for taking on a kind of Johnny Rotten-esque stage persona, Nazi dog, in the early years of the Violtones, and we don't have time to get into all of the nuances of that. He also wore a dog collar and would cut himself on stage like Iggy Pop. He was also kind of a dandy and a self-made intellectual at the same time, and that kind of punk paradox was going on. He was fond of quoting Rimbaud and Baudelaire. The Violtones broke up in the early 80s, and aside from occasional reunions and a solo project here or there, he mostly retired from music and just ran an art gallery and did his own visual art.
Yeah.
And so, you know, somebody who was at the sort of explosive beginning of something that then became the alternative scene in Toronto and Canada for history going on.
That's I think a good place to leave it. I really appreciate your time, you guys. Thank you so much, Rosie and Vish and Carl. Thanks for your time. This is Commotion. My name is Elamin.
you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.